Welcome to the deep dive. You've pulled together some really interesting stuff for us today. We're looking at self-regulated learning.
Yeah, specifically through the lenses of cognitive and educational psychology.
Right.
And what's really striking about the sources you sent over is how these two fields, even though they're both looking at how we learn, often seem to operate in, well, separate
Like
lanes.
silos.
Exactly. It's sort of like
Okay.
imagine two teams exploring the same, complex machine. One's maybe focused on the engine bits in a lab setting,
Mm-hmm.
while the other watches the whole car drive on the road. But they don't always compare notes effectively.
That's a great analogy. So our mission here in this deep dive is really to bridge that for you, our listener.
Yeah, we want to unpack the main ideas from both sides.
See where they connect, maybe where they differ a bit.
And ultimately, how bringing them together gives you a clearer, more useful picture of your own learning.
Like building that combined blueprint you mentioned.
Precisely. And the core concept here is self-regulated learning.
Okay, so what is that in simple terms?
It's basically you taking charge of your own learning process. Setting goals, picking strategies.
Staying motivated, checking if you're actually getting it.
Exactly. Being the active driver, not just uh, the passenger in your own education.
Gotcha. And there was one piece in particular, a review article.
Yes, in the Educational Psychology Review, it really tackles this specific issue head-on.
The issue being these two fields kind of running on parallel tracks when it comes to self-regulated learning.
Right. It's all about finding those connections, or maybe the lack thereof, historically speaking.
And this review, it's like a synthesis, right? Looking at existing research.
Exactly, a theoretical synthesis.
Yeah.
It pulls together what we already know or think we know from different studies.
Okay.
And the authors make it clear, both cognitive and educational psychology have made, big strides. Cognitive psychology often zooms right in on the mental nuts and bolts.
It's like metacognition, that awareness of your own thinking.
Yeah, that and specific memory strategies, things they often test in, like very controlled lab environments.
Okay, let's just pause on metacognition for a sec. That's like knowing what you know, and maybe more importantly, what you don't know.
Hmm.
That little voice saying, uh-oh, better review that bit.
Exactly, that little voice. And cognitive psychology might test, say, which specific self-quizzing technique really helps you remember stuff later. Very focused experiments.
Right, isolating variables.
Precisely. Now, educational psychology, they tend to look at self-regulated learning in more real-world places.
Classrooms, basically.
Classrooms, online courses, you name it. They might study how students juggle deadlines for different subjects, or how enthusiasm for a topic changes effort levels.
Or how the teacher's style impacts whether students learn to manage themselves.
Absolutely. It's more about the learning context, the environment, motivation, the whole student experience.
So one's looking deep inside the engine, the other's watching the car navigate traffic.
That's a good way to think about it.
Mm-hmm.
And the review points out that because they've historically had these different focuses, different methods.
The knowledge sometimes stays stuck in its own bubble.
Kind of, yeah.
Mm.
Researchers in one camp might not always be fully up to speed on what the other camp has found.
Makes sense. Like our two research teams not sharing blueprints. The review digs into why this separation happened, doesn't it?
It does. Part of it is just, well, their different origins and the main questions they started with.
Okay.
Cognitive psychology grew out of studying those basic mental functions, memory, attention, problem solving, the real fundamentals.
Mm.
Educational psychology was always more focused on applying psychological principles to, actually improve teaching and learning in schools.
So different missions from the get-go. One understanding the basic mechanism, the other applying it.
Exactly. And that leads down different research paths. Another factor the review mentions is their preferred research methods.
Right, you said cognitive psychology likes labs.
Often, yeah. Controlled experiments let them isolate cause and effect really clearly.
Huh.
Educational psychology, on the other hand, frequently uses studies in actual classrooms, or maybe surveys, interviews, things that capture the messy reality of learning.
Which gives you different kinds of data, I guess. Maybe different conclusions sometimes.
It can. It
Yeah.
definitely gives you different perspectives on the same learning behavior.
So different questions, different settings, different tools. Yeah, I can see how they might have developed separately, but the main message of this review is we need to connect them.
That's the core argument. To get a truly deep, holistic understanding of self-regulated learning, you really need both perspectives.
Neither one alone gives the full story of how someone gets good at managing their learning.
Precisely. The authors argue integration is essential.
And they talk about some pretty cool benefits if we do manage to bridge this gap, right? Like better research, better practical tools.
Definitely. Think about combining the rigor of cognitive experiments with the real-world insights from educational psych. You could start asking new kinds of questions, like how does a memory trick that works great in the lab actually function when you factor in a student's motivation level or the specific way a teacher explains things?
So it's not just if a technique works, but how and when and why it works in a real learning situation.
Exactly. That combination lets you dig much deeper. It could lead to, really innovative research designs.
And this is where it gets super relevant for you listening, because if we understand how the mental stuff and the environment stuff interact,
Then you could develop much smarter, more targeted learning strategies for yourself.
it's not just knowing about, say, flashcards. It's knowing how to use them best, giving your motivation for that subject in your study space.
Right. The practical implications are potentially huge. Imagine teaching methods built on solid cognitive science and tailored to boost motivation and fit the learning environment.
That sounds like more powerful teaching.
And more powerful learning tools for everybody. Plus, the reviews suggest this integration could lead to just better theories, more complete models of self-regulated learning that account for both the mind and the context.
Okay, so the review suggests three key things needed to actually make this integration happen. Let's break those down. First one is awareness and understanding.
Yeah, this is kind of the foundation. It just means researchers in both fields need to actively recognize and appreciate what the other side brings to the table.
So understanding their viewpoints, their methods, why they do things the way they do.
Exactly. Acknowledging that both offer value and that the insights aren't usually contradictory, they're often complementary.
So step one is basically get out of your own silo and see what the neighbors are up to. Understand their perspective.
Pretty much. You need that basic awareness to even spot the potential connection points. The review suggests things like, actively reading journals from the other field, engaging with their research, seeing the overlaps, the connections, maybe even the disagreements that could spark interesting joint work.
Okay, makes sense. The second ingredient is innovation and expansion. Sounds like pushing the envelope.
It is. This is all about how bringing the fields together can spark completely new research ideas, new questions, even new methods.
So
By combining the theories and the tools from both sides, researchers can tackle questions they couldn't really address from just one perspective.
okay, can you give a concrete example to make it really clear?
Sure. Um, Imagine using something like brain imaging, which cognitive folks use a lot,
Right.
to see how motivation levels, a big topic for educational psych, actually change brain activity while a student is learning in a classroom.
Oh, okay.
Or maybe using the detailed classroom observations from educational research to refine a cognitive model of how we, say, monitor our own understanding.
So using tools from one field to answer questions relevant to both, or using insights from one to improve models in the other.
Exactly. That kind of cross-pollination can open up totally new research avenues.
Very cool. Okay, third element, collaboration and interaction. Seems pretty self-explanatory.
It is, but it's crucial. This just highlights the need for researchers from the two fields to actually, work together
Yep.
directly.
So not just reading each other's papers, but like joint projects.
Yeah, co-authoring studies, running research projects together, maybe attending conferences designed to bring both groups into the same space.
Making them talking, basically.
Yeah.
Sharing expertise, designing studies that deliberately bridge the gap.
Exactly. The review stresses that these direct interactions are vital for building that shared language, figuring out common research goals, and actually translating findings from one area to the other.
Helps overcome maybe some built-in biases within each field, too.
Could do, yeah. And ultimately leads to those richer, more integrated theories of self-regulated learning we talked about.
Okay, let's tie this all back to you, our listener. Why should someone busy just wanting to learn better care about this academic conversation?
Well, like we touched on, getting that fuller picture of self-regulated learning directly benefits your learning.
How so?
Think about it. Knowing the mental tricks,
Yeah.
memory techniques, how to check your understanding that's valuable, right?
Sure.
But it's way more powerful when you also grasp how your motivation, your learning environment, the specific task,
Yeah.
how all that affects whether and how you actually use those mental skills.
It gives you the whole toolkit, not just a few wrenches.
Exactly. It's the difference between knowing what the tools are and knowing how and when to use each one effectively for the specific job at hand.
And this is where you might get those aha moments, right? Like
Mhm.
realizing maybe your focus problem isn't just willpower, but maybe it's linked to how boring you find the topic or how noisy your study space is.
Precisely. When you see those connections, you can develop strategies that actually address the real bottleneck, not just the symptom. You see how the pieces fit.
And just to reassure everyone, while we're digging into these cognitive and educational psych ideas,
Hmm.
our goal isn't to drown you in academic speak.
Definitely not.
We're trying to pull out the key insights, make them clear, make them practical, so you can think about how they apply to you.
Right, so you can use this stuff.
So boiling it down, the big takeaway from this review is really that powerful message. When cognitive and educational psychology team up,
We get a much deeper, much more useful understanding of how we learn to manage our own learning. Self-regulation.
by deliberately connecting these fields, these sometimes separate worlds,
We can drive more innovative research, create better teaching methods.
and ultimately give learners, like you, more complete and effective strategies to reach your goals.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Okay, so on that note, here's a final thought for you to mull over. Think about your own learning style, your own approach.
Mm-hmm.
Do you tend to focus more on the mental techniques, like memorization tricks, how you process information? That might be leaning more cognitive.
Or maybe you're more tuned into how your motivation fluctuates, how the environment affects you, the nature of the task itself. That's maybe more educational psych leaning.
Right. So the provocative question is, how could becoming more aware of the other perspective, the one you don't naturally focus on, actually help you?
Where might consciously trying to combine those approaches, thinking about both the mental strategies and the context and motivation, be really beneficial in your own learning?
Something to think about. Where could that combined view unlock better learning for you?